Hello art lovers, Spiro here. This is going to be the first video in my sort of instructionals. I've titled it up here as Doodling 101. It is not so much an instructional as really an inspirational, because doodling is anything you want. I just thought it might be interesting for people to get a look at some ideas and some ways to just sort of kickstart their brains into beginning a doodle, or to have things to do. Now, if I'll show you here some of my doodles. I mean, there are some elements that you'll see that I tend to repeat. I've got a lot of use of shapes, and you'll see that I've got circles here. I do dots, I do shading, and I've kind of been getting I'm trying to get a handle on how I do my shading, whether I want to do everything like as if it was a real piece of art, where it would be like all the light coming from one direction, or if I'm just doing everything just randomly. But you'll see I do a lot of other things, elements that I replicate through my various doodles. You've got these cloudy, misty things that I do. A lot of hatching. These ones here, actually, I used what's called Kirby Crackle. So Jack Kirby from Marvel and DC Comics, who was a legend in the field. He did this thing called Kirby Crackle, which obviously mine is garbage compared to his, but it's just kind of that inspiration. I took the idea and I just kind of added the element. This here is just like a big ink splatter. I got the idea for like an iris here, so it's just all, you know, various things. And there, you know, like I did these round balls here, and I ended up making these other crescents inside them, and they look like mouths. So like I added little chins onto them and added stubble. So, you know, you can see there's like a rocket launching. So various things. This one is probably one of the more detailed ones. I used a lot of steepling or dots. I used Egyptian hieroglyphs. So I started off with those hieroglyphs, and then I kind of built up around them. And so another idea is, you know, you build some elements and then you frame them. You build some more elements and you frame them, and that adds interesting things to the compositions. All right, so this one here was more of an ink splatter, but again, I quite like these wisps, so I tend to use them. And these things here, I started to look like stone sort of shapes or buildings, like reminded me of buildings, or you know, I mean, it's nothing, right? I mean, these are all nothing. They started playing with other various things. So the ideas that you can start to implement in your doodles, actually, you can see there's some more in the background there. See, I've got like these arches. What else have I got back here? You can see more things I've done. I sort of did some robot and some mechanical stuff. So, you know, this is just getting ideas and building up like a vocabulary for your doodles, for your artistic shapes. So, and that's, I think, another things you can start with, right? It's basic shapes. Right, you might be able to add a drop shadow. Right, you might even be able to, you might even want to say add a shadow inside, so that you can get some of that texture of the ball being round. You know, it might be nothing, it might just be just some darkness. And the way I do those wisps is some of the earlier ones I was doing to making them look like clouds, right? So they'd look a lot more like this. And that was fine, but I sort of started adapting them into more random kind of things. And then what I do is I add some kind of shading here, just some lines to give it that appearance of texture, so they look like clouds. And they've got, if you look at clouds, you know, you'll see they have dark spots, they have lighter spots. Sometimes I add these things here to make it look like there's a bit of a shadow, or I can do a shadow underneath. Another thing I like to do is adding a bit of a drop shadow under some of the elements. I kind of try and stick now to one side, because if you add on both sides it can look a little bit weird, but maybe that's the look you want, you know. There's no right, there's no wrong in doodling. It is just purely for the fun and for the enjoyment. All right. You can add circles into things. Some of them you might have dots inside. Maybe there's little olives or eyeballs. Maybe they are eyeballs. Eee. Well, I mean, this is, if you look at how I approach it, it's all just shapes, right? More triangles inside the triangles. And I was saying that we can add a border around some parts, and that kind of helps to separate certain elements. And if we're following our shadows, we might want to add a drop shadow to it. Still visible there. Getting carried away drawing and I'm not checking the camera. I've kind of got it on a weird angle here, but so I apologise for that. You know, and then maybe you can fill this up. Different size circles. Maybe some of these have got shadows on them. So you can do a whole lot. You can even start adding other random lines, random. You can colour those in the same way I do my wisps. Add shading here to make it look a little bit more three-dimensional. So these are just some ideas to get you started. I can sometimes do these and colour in every second one and give it a bit of depth. Right. Or you might even add more stuff into it. I mean, it depends on how busy or how quiet you want your things to be. You can take inspiration from landscapes or from portraits or from different things from real life. There was one I did where I started with a bit of a skull. All right, and then I sort of started working on shapes around. I mean, you've already got a whole bunch of shapes here, right? So you can do whatever you want with them. You can start adding patterns. The other thing to look at is different cultures have got their cultural art tends to be full of quite a variety of different shapes and patterns that you can get inspiration from as well. If you look at Maori art, I'm in New Zealand, so Maori art has a lot of koru plants, which are these really beautiful, they're kind of, I've got these twisting kind of things, and so there's these patterns that tend to show up in a lot of the artwork. You've got, and I'm also of Greek heritage, so the Greeks have got their patterns where they do those kind of, I don't even know what you call them, which shows up on a lot of art, it shows up on a lot of pottery, it shows up on a lot of things. Things like Mayan art they tend to have a lot of triangles, they tend to have a lot of different things like that, and so you can get inspiration from a lot of unlikely places, right? And you merge all these things together, and you can make some pretty interesting effects. Is that a liar? A liar? So, maybe these ears have got these little wisps of... I tend to also do a lot of my work very loosely and very quickly. Like I don't stop to take. I'm not cautious with a lot of it. You know, like I just kind of throw lines on, and I like that look of that unplanned and that chaotic kind of nature. So yeah, give that a crack if you want to use that as inspiration. I would love to see yours if you do any. I'm on Instagram at Spiro Harvey. So if you do any, post yours up on Instagram, show me. I'd love to see yours and see what you produce out of it. I know I've a little while ago I was posting some up on Instagram. I've got some on my page if you go back, and some of my other friends online use that as inspiration, and they started doing their own doodles as well. Oh, maybe I should mention as well, I started a hashtag, whip out your doodle. So if you post anything on Instagram, use that hashtag, whip out your doodle, and then any other people who see them and follow along, or you use that on Twitter as well. Yeah, it'd be cool to see what you produce. Do you do doodling at the moment? There's a few others who do There's one YouTube channel that I kind of started to get the inspiration from, and he's the guy I got this wispy thing idea from, and that is Peter Draws, and he does live streams on Twitch. He's got a YouTube channel and he does a bunch of other stuff, and he's just an amazing doodler. So it's a lot of fun, great stress relief can be, and it's very creative. I think it gets my creative brain juices flowing, and if I'm not in the mood for doing a proper sketch, or if I'm not in the mood for doing a painting, you know, I've got this little tiny hand size A6 diary, and I just kind of doodle. If I'm on a train, I can do some doodling. If I'm, you know, sitting at McDonald's or the fish and chip shop waiting for my food to be ready, I can do a little doodle. A lot of fun. Anyway, hope that inspires you, hope that helps you, hope that gives you some ideas, and look forward to seeing some of yours. See you in the next video.